Craig Hope is with us. Craig, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, guys. Very good. Looking forward to tomorrow. As journalists, as you probably know, deadline day. Is it one to be enjoyed or one to be endured? I'm not so sure, but I'm looking forward to tomorrow. That's for certain.
I couldn't believe when I was looking up last week that last night wasn't the end of it. I presume it was something to do with the fact that there were fixtures on and the old fax machines might have been otherwise engaged, faxing through the results of the matches or something. Why are we in September and the bloody window's still open?
I couldn't agree more. When I saw the fixture list and I saw that Newcastle were at Liverpool on August the 31st, as a journalist, you think perfect because your mind is going to be distracted with the game and deadline day will come and go and you won't even realise. But sadly, we've got another day of it to go. So, let's see what it brings.
Do you expect anything incoming or outgoing around Newcastle in the next 12 hours or so?
Potentially, yes. Now, I know they would have liked to have done more. Certainly at the start of the week, they were exploring perhaps one, maybe two more permanent deals certainly in a defensive midfield position. They've looked into the likes of Yuri Tielemans, Leander Dendoncker at Wolves, Douglas Luiz at Aston Villa, Dennis Zakaria at Juventus. And I don't think, from where we are now, I don't think any of those are probably going to happen. So they're still looking around for a defensive midfielder. Probably a lower move that would be. In terms of outgoings, Martin Dubravka will join Manchester United today on loan. Now, they wanted to get through last night's game without any problems to Nick Pope before they signed off on that. And after 3 minutes, Nick Pope went down and called for a doctor. So for a moment, it did look iffy. I think Martin Dubravka would have been watching that one through his fingertips because he really wants this move to Manchester United. So I don't expect a great deal, but they are still active. And like I said, a loan move would probably be the most likely.
I did mention some of the stats earlier. Like Eddie Howe was really getting the optimum out of his team because stats-wise last night they were absolutely battered, but could easily have won the game.
Yeah, they were. And what I will say is, it doesn't matter who plays for Newcastle at the moment. And last night they were depleted. They didn't have arguably the three best forward players. Alan St-Maximin, Callum Wilson and Bruno Guimaraes were all out with hamstring injuries. Even at the back as well, they didn't have the £32 million defender Sven Botman in there. It doesn't matter who plays at the moment. You can still identify with Newcastle a strategy, a structure, and an absolute buy-in from every player on the pitch. Now, that hasn't always been the case in recent years, certainly not under former managers. Now, that is an absolute testament to the work that Eddie Howe is doing there at Newcastle at the moment. And as you say, even though Liverpool had more of the ball, Newcastle didn't allow them to do anything with it for the first half. The first half, for me, was up there with one of Newcastle's best performances of the season, even one of the best under Eddie Howe. I thought they were tremendous. I really did. And of course, come the end, there is the heartache. We might get onto that. But last night was just an example of the brilliant work that Eddie Howe has done. And as I said before, the absolute buy-in of the players.
And Craig, we were reminiscing about the 4-3s and 26 and a half years, I think, since the initial one. And if there's something Newcastle love, it's definitely a marquee striker signing. And I'm thinking of Asprilla back in the day and the glamour that he brought. What about the incumbent though? And it could easily have been the perfect 2-goal debut in victory at Anfield.
It could have been, and the second one as well, regardless of whether it was ruled out or not, and you can debate that, technically it probably is offside. Regardless of all of that, what he went on to do in what was a real live game situation at the time, the flag hadn't been raised, was quite phenomenal. To sit down to the two defenders like he did, and then find a way past Alisson again, I thought was just tremendous. And he went off at the last half hour there, but what a shift he put in. He worked hard. There was class. There was composure. He's finished the way he just gave the goalkeeper the eyes as well, and then he whipped it in. It was fantastic, and already he has the feel of a real hero. And now I've been saying all summer, and I got a little bit of stick for this about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I went on radio over here, and I said it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Callum Wilson felt his hamstring before the end of August. Now, I didn't want him to tear his hamstring, but the reaction among supporters was, "You're stupid. What sort of journalist are you? You're saying you want players to be injured." I said, no. I said, I just think they've taken their eye off the ball with regards to what the team really, really needs. And for me, the priority should have been all summer was a striker, someone to come in and compete with Callum Wilson. Now, Callum Wilson came back towards the end of last year. He'd come back from a very serious Achilles injury and had done very well. Now, I think that it's swayed thinking internally as to Callum Wilson perhaps going a full season and being the main man. I don't think you can, as good as Callum Wilson is, I don't think you can rely on him for that. Now, to bring in Isaac, for me, is the player in the position who could really make a difference for Newcastle this year, between them being a team who competes for the top 10 to a team who competes on the coattails of that top 6, top 7, and certainly the early signs last night were massively encouraging.
We had Graham Hunter on the show last week, and we were asking him specifically about what kind of impact he could have, and he said, look, at this stage you're buying potential. Nothing wrong with buying potential, but that's all it is. He's had a difficult season. He's missed sitters, he's missed chances. 2 years ago, his goal scoring record was way better, and something happened. There was something going on. For him to hit the ground running was actually really important. Those words were ringing in my ears when I saw the finish last night. I was like, right, well, all of a sudden the confidence flows, because we understand that, like, these humans, despite the amount of money that they get paid and that gets paid for them, they're not robots. So if you're a striker and you start scoring like that at Anfield, he's going to be feeling himself. Those sitters aren't going to get missed this season, and that's that. Like, we can overstate how important a good start is, but in this instance, it doesn't feel like that. Any word on the injury? Is it anything serious or anything to be worried about?
No, just a dead leg.
Dead leg, yeah.
He should be fine. And the point you made there, which is interesting, so I'll bring you back to the importance of making a good start. Now, John Dahl Thomason has recently, he's returned to this country, he's manager of Blackburn now. Now, John Dahl Thomason came to Newcastle as a 21-year-old in 1997. Not many people remember this. On his debut against Sheffield Wednesday at home, Tino Asprilla put him through on goal after 30 seconds. Thomason had, from the halfway line, through on goal with the goalkeeper, and he missed badly as well. Now, I've always said if that had gone in, John Dahl Thomason's Newcastle career might have been awfully different. It is important, a good start, because it just gets the fans on side immediately. They've got a hero to buy into, and you could see that last night. The goal lifted him, and scoring the first goal probably gave him the confidence to do what he did for the second goal that was ruled out. And you mentioned there Graham Hunter. You had him on your show earlier in the week. Well, we've got a man in Spain too called Pete Jensen, and Pete wrote a bit saying that Newcastle had probably paid the wrong fee for Isaac, bearing in mind how he did last season. Now, on the evidence of last night, yeah, they've paid the wrong fee. They probably haven't paid enough. So, but yeah, there is a feeling in Spain that £60 million, bearing in mind he only scored 3 La Liga goals last year, is too much, and they are investing in potential. But what I will say with regards to potential at Newcastle right now, you have got absolutely the right manager in place to bring out the best in to fulfil that potential now.
Also, must have been $1 billion spent or whatever in the Premier League. Like, does it actually matter? Is this even a relevant debate anymore, given the ownership of the club as well, or there was 60 or 80 or whatever? Is it even remotely relevant?
No, it is. It is relevant because you've got FFP and you've got parameters you've got to work within. So you can't afford to get £60 million signings wrong. If you get a £60 million signing wrong, you can't just write them off and then go and buy another one, because that money is gone. And even this summer, Newcastle didn't want to go as high as they've gone. The total spend, I think, is 115 million, even though, listen, those are structured deals which are spread out over the next 2, 3, 4 years to circumnavigate FFP restrictions. But at the same time, no, to answer your question, you can't go throwing around money willy-nilly. And where Newcastle are at, in terms of what they've currently got coming in, which is still really, it's a Mike Ashley club in terms of commercial revenue, in terms of even tickets, player sales. There's no one there with any real value who they can sell, apart from maybe an Alan St. Maximum. So, no, they've got to be really careful. They've got to knock their recruitment out of the park, and so far they've done it. And the little example I go back to is, for the same £80 million that Manchester United paid for Harry Maguire, Newcastle have put together a brand new back five of 2 England internationals, Nick Pope and Kieran Trippier, Sven Botman and Dan Burn, and Matt Targett left back for £80 million. That's impressive. They've done well so far, and they've got to continue to do that.
I think the other thing you're talking about is Eddie Howe and the plan, and there's a structure there as well. It does seem like Eddie Howe is a manager who has a very specific style of play that he wants this team to grow in and to use to get up the league. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that actually is? Because there's been some criticism that it's a bit defensive and that maybe the new owners are going to want some more Harlem Globetrotter style stuff, but that's not really, he doesn't want to be Claudio Ranieri at Chelsea. He wants to be Jose Mourinho at Chelsea. Mourinho's style, as we all know, that team scored loads of goals, but they were bloody good defenders, and they made sure that they didn't concede goals. And it seems as if, while Eddie Howe is now finally splashed out in a striker, that his first primary concern was to build a defence and a defensive structure so that anybody who comes in and plays knows exactly what their job is.
Yeah, but then what he has done that, absolutely, he has done that. He's built from the back. He inherited an absolute mess at the back from Steve Bruce. But yeah, and upon those foundations, Newcastle have built, and it's probably been the cornerstone of the success since January onwards. But why does a manager have to be wed to one definite style or one definite system? We've seen in the space of a week now with Newcastle, they've arguably adopted the strategy depending on the opponent. Manchester City at home, and they didn't have a lot of the ball, but they went for them and they played with a very definite strategy to catch them on the counter-attack and get St Maximin into the game, and it worked. St Maximin wasn't there last night, yet they still found a way to cause Liverpool problems. Wolves on Sunday. Now, they went to Wolves on Sunday, and I'd say arguably it was the worst performance out of those 3 games. They had a lot of the ball. It was a different way of playing where they do want to dominate. They do want possession. That is the way Eddie wants to go. But they didn't do a great deal with it in the final third. That probably comes back to personnel, which is why they're trying to improve the attacking areas with regards to recruitment. So, what Eddie Howe has shown so far is that he's adaptable. And he said this himself, last night at times was quite ugly. Well, bravo, you've realised that is the way to potentially go to Liverpool and get a result. It is about industry, it's about pressing, it's about structure. It's about sitting deep at times. And it worked perfectly until the 98th minute. So yeah, he's adaptable. And I have to say this, I'm someone who's been on your show before, invariably to be critical of managers, be that at Newcastle or be that at Sunderland. I've always sort of said what I thought and what I saw. With this guy, honestly, trust me, I couldn't have been more impressed. He's believable, he's intelligent, he's hardworking. I've said this before, I honestly think he could be one of the next great British coaches.
They're fifth in the table in the calendar year, and they're literally just getting going.
Yeah. I mean, the form from January onwards was incredible, really, to put themselves in the top 3, top 4. A team who entered the year fighting relegation again comes back to the work that Eddie's done. Even the league, listen, they've dropped into the bottom half after last night, but the league table's a little bit of a lie. They've been away to Liverpool, only beaten in the 98th minute. Manchester City, they came very close to beating, of course. So it has been an encouraging start of the season, even though they're on the bottom half. And my expectation is that I think they've got to get European football this season, because you look at some of the players they've got in there now. Sven Botman, Bruno Guimaraes, Alexander Isak. They haven't come to Newcastle not to be playing continental football. So there is a little bit of pressure there. But I absolutely believe on what I've seen, what I've heard, everything around it so far, I absolutely believe that is achievable this season, a top 7 finish.
Pardon my ignorance here, Botman and Guimaraes, they're expected back relatively soon, is it?
Botman was on the bench last night. I just think it was a case of maybe his rotation last night with regards to defenders. Botman's okay. Bruno Guimaraes has a hamstring strain. We're told that Saturday is probably unlikely, the same for St Maximin, and a week on Sunday down at West Ham is the more likely return date for those two. But things can change over the next 72 hours, we'll see. Yeah,
okay. Neither of them are chronic long-term out till Christmas type thing, so we should see the team settle into a rhythm over the next while, and the games are coming thick and fast, so that strength and depth is going to be hugely important to them. The point you make about the potential for the coach, how long is his runway? Because it's likely that when you set a new team together and you sign all these players, that there might be a little bit of a bedding in period. There could be a bit of a blip. Does he have any rope?
He do. Well, he's just signed a new long-term contract there 2 weeks ago, so he does. I think the owners, like myself, couldn't have been more impressed by him. And that is as a result of the feedback you get within the club. Now, what Eddie Howe's greatest success, but one of his biggest successes so far, has been not only to keep the players in the team happy, but to keep the players outside the team happy. Now, the previous manager here couldn't even keep the players in the team happy. So, so to that regard, I use that phrase buy-in. When Eddie came in November time, and one of the first things he did was he put himself on the line. He stood up in the canteen in front of the entire squad and all the staff and went through his full life story. Now, that included, the very painful death of his mother as well. It was a single mum. He's spoken about that previously, and he put everything on the line for them. And I think the players walked out of that meeting and just said, "Wow, we want to play for this guy." And over the course of the next 2 or 3 weeks, after every training session, after lunch, one player was encouraged to stand up in front of the group and repeat what Eddie had done. Put their life out there things that perhaps wouldn't have shared with teammates before, put it out there. And because of that, they have grown closer. You can see it. There is an undeniable bond there. The amount of late goals they've scored, the amount of times they've salvaged points that perhaps shouldn't have got. So no, you went into the question there, putting it back to me that I said he's going to be one of the next great British managers. You look at his age, he's 44 years old now. That Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard are a similar age, and they're being talked about as relative rookies on a Premier League stage, young managers. Well, they're the same age as Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe has already got 14 years of a body of work beneath them now. Not all of that has been good. There's been a relegation with Bournemouth. There's been accusations of poor recruitment at Bournemouth, which I don't think is entirely accurate. But why can't you learn from that?
Well, that's a really good point, because we actually had somebody on who played under him and said the man management wasn't great, but that was in his first job. Like, he was calling players who were older than him son. You learn from your mistakes, and he has gone through that period where the other two who you mentioned doesn't seem to be learning from their mistakes at the moment. I'm a Villa fan, so I'd much rather have Eddie Howe as the manager of Villa and it's never going to happen now. But it's clear that he is somebody who takes on board feedback. That's my roundabout way of getting there.
Yeah, but he was out of work for 18 months between Bournemouth and Newcastle, and he spent his entire time, not entire time, but a lot of his time digitalising every coaching session he'd ever put on. So, he's got the resource there now to pluck a session from this digitalised. I mean, you could argue there's better things to do with your time, but he went away, and during that period, he looked at his weaknesses as a manager and improved himself. And isn't that what life's about? Recognising weaknesses rather than sort of pig-headedly carrying on with what you've done previously and believing it's going to work. He's intelligent. That's what it comes back to. The man is intelligent.
I have two last questions. One is, afterwards Klopp was complaining about the time wasting, and so they've just won in the 98th minute, and he says it's going to be a game that everybody remembers forever, but he's still taking time to go, but they were time wasting. If I'm a Newcastle fan, I'm delighted about that, because they care. And we've got under the skin, and the next time when we play them, we will time waste, because Liverpool would do it to us. And all of a sudden, you're getting the respect of being disliked by Klopp, which I think is probably important. Maybe I'm reading that wrong, and maybe he's just being nasty afterwards because he can be, because he's the boss. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought Eddie was very dignified afterwards with regards to the time and all the rest of it, and I wouldn't expect anything different. What I will say on the time is, now, I haven't necessarily, on a whole, got a problem with it, because I've written it and said recently that I think we are being cheated out of minutes that if the football is on the pitch. I think the research at the start of the season showed, some matches as low as there was a Newcastle game recently as low as 46, 47 minutes. Now, how is that the case? It's just scandalous. So my solution to this was, and we did a little bit on the Daily Mail, was, just play longer at the end, play 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes as the norm, as opposed to 2 or 3. So in principle, I haven't got a problem with them going beyond the allotted allocated time. Where I have got an issue with it last night is it's because it's still so unprecedented. How many times do you go 3 minutes beyond the 5 which is put up? And even 5 at the time felt a little bit excessive. Now, Nick Pope was down injured in injury time, but I think someone's timed that, and it was a minute and a half. So where do you find the extra 2.5, 3 to play beyond that? I don't know what you guys think, because I think it is an interesting point for debate. I just think, for me, it doesn't normally happen, so I can see why Newcastle are aggrieved that there was a point on about 96.5 minutes, a minute and a half after the allotted 5, where you thought, right, he's going to blow the whistle now. Newcastle attack had broken down, and lo and behold, it didn't, and that was the offensive Liverpool scored from. But I don't know what you guys think.
Well, it always never happens. It happens in Gaelic games. It rarely happens in football. Your point about the additional time is completely accurate. We just take it for granted that, it's a throw, it took 47 seconds. Yeah. That's grand, and then there's 2 minutes. But yeah,
there's several substitutions and the time's never added on. The inconsistency is the thing that drives everybody crazy. That's it. But I think you're right. Just play 8 or 9 minutes as a matter of course, and it kind of all of a sudden people forget to time waste because there's no point.
Yeah,
that kind of cures it. The last thing is obviously about the fans and the ownership, and what is the level of comfort at the moment amongst the fans with the Saudi owners? Has that story completely disappeared? And because the sports washing is happening in all aspects of all sport at the moment. We see it in horse racing. We've talked about this week. We see it in golf, where the Saudis are basically trying to take over the sport, with them coming over and owning the club. How important is that? Is that discussed amongst the fans at the moment? Is it still a real life topic?
I'll give an honest answer here. With regards to supporters, no, it's not. I think supporters, from as a journalist based up here and is surrounded by fans on sort of a daily basis, immersed in it. I think they've been able to park any concerns they may have about the ownership and concentrate on what is for them a football story and the love of the football club. Now, we can argue the wrongs and rights of that, but that is the reality, and that's an honest answer I will try to give from a journalistic perspective. At the start, I can only speak for my own publication, but at the start, I think we covered both sides of it very well, because there are two stories to tell here. There is the issue of Saudi ownership and what is sports washing. I mean, they are buying into sport to enhance their reputation. That is unavoidable, and there are certain elements of that do leave you uneasy and do have to be explored and maintained. You've got to keep on at that journalistically. I think as a newspaper, the Daily Mail has done that. I'm employed as a football reporter up here. It doesn't mean I turn a blind eye to that. I've spoken about that and I've written things about that side of it, but I've also got to cover a football story as well with regards, the Premier League matches, the press conferences, the transfers, everything else around it that is taking place. So it is still there. There's certain elements of it, personally, I'm not necessarily comfortable with, but at the same time, there is a football club there, a manager and players, and the manager is doing a very brilliant job. And we've just spoken for 20 minutes there about what is a fascinating subject with regards to the incomings. Newcastle's turnaround from what they were under Mike Ashley and Steve Bruce to what they are under new ownership and Eddie Howe now. So, there is interest there. We've got to cover that, and we've got to do the best we possibly can to tell that side of the story as well. So yeah, there's contradictions and there's conflicts, and that'll probably continue to be the case, and that's me trying to give you an honest answer.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think you see with all fan groups that the ownership is an issue when things are bad, and when things start going well, when you sign a striker who bangs one in with his first 15 minutes, you're like, hey, and that is the contradictions of life. Craig, it's always great having you on. One last thing, John Dahl Thomason's first game was in Dublin. You guys came over for a three-team, Pats, Chelsea and Newcastle were over, because I remember he came off the bench and wasn't very good, and Kenny Dalglish, I asked him about it in the press conference afterwards, and he was very spiky. He had the head off me because
you haven't recovered.
Well, I was like, it was a kind of stupid, like one of my long rambling questions, and Dalglish is kind of like, "Well, that guy's gonna be a superstar." I was like, well, so I watched with interest then as.
Is this the first time you've ever gave the story? I was right.
Well, I mean, I wasn't. I knew then even less than I know about football now, and it was like, he'd missed. He'd come on and just hadn't, like, because he was he not replacing Shearer, or was Shearer still there?
No, Shearer was injured. So
right.
If Shearer hadn't been injured, then I think it would have perhaps lightened the load on John Dahl Thomason. But he went in as a 21-year-old kid in his first season in England, and it was all just a little bit too much for him, really. But went on to have a very good career. Of course. So,
great career. Seems like a great football man. But Kenny Dalglish was not happy being asked about his new signing on his debut in Dublin. So it turned out it wasn't only Dublin he was missing. Craig, great to have you with us. Thanks.
Cheers, guys.